CNBC आवाज प्रस्तुत करता है क्रिप्टो कॉर्नर पावर्ड बाय बाइनेंस।
नमस्कार, आप देख रहे हैं क्रिप्टो कॉर्नर और हमारे साथ इसमें जुड़े हैं स्ट्राइव के सीईओ मैट कोल। मैट, बहुत शुक्रिया साथ जुड़ने के लिए। आप टॉप टियर पब्लिक कॉर्पोरेट बिटकॉइन होल्डर के तौर पर जाने जाते हैं। आपकी कंपनी दैट इज बिटकॉइन होल्डिंग्स एज ऑफ नाउ क्या है और यहाँ से क्या स्ट्रैटेजी है?
Yeah, hi Manisha, thanks for having me on. So right now, Strive holds over 19,000 Bitcoin, and we have two securities. So we have our common equity, ASST, and the goal here is really structuring around Bitcoin and outperforming Bitcoin itself. And so we do that through structured finance. And so you could think of us as a structured finance company. Where do we get that structure from? How do we amplify Bitcoin's returns, both to the upside and to the downside? It's through our preferred equity, SATA. So that product, SATA, it's actually the first security in U.S. capital markets history to pay a daily dividend. It pays 13% annualized, and it's been exploding in demand. And so what this really is a carry trade. If Bitcoin outperforms about 13% a year, our common equity will outperform Bitcoin, and then the preferred equity earns a high yield and less returns than Bitcoin, but is also substantially less volatile. So that's what we're trying to do, and stack a ton of Bitcoin in the process.
Matt, we're in a market where we're looking at a US debt of 39 trillion and the global debt is at 350 trillion. Would you say it's a kind of a market where the money perhaps would go to tangibles like gold and silver, or do you think crypto is the place to be?
Yeah, so I am a gold bull. I'm a big believer in, as you noted, the debt crisis in the United States. I think the United States has obviously the most to lose from this because the dollar is the reserve currency of the world, but really all fiat currencies around the globe, whether you're looking at the euro, whether you're looking at the yen, the debt crisis is global. And I think we're moving to a more hard currency, hard commodity future. Gold will benefit from that. I think Bitcoin will benefit in a bigger manner for a couple reasons. One, because it's digital. We're moving to a digital world, an AI future world. And second, I think it's more of an emerging asset. So if you just think about total returns, an emerging hard currency has more to gain than the historical hard currency in gold. But I think both will do really well, but we're staking our future on Bitcoin.
Matt, also Strive recently completed the acquisition of Semler Scientific. We will see Strive, do we see Strive pursue further M&As, and are there more acquisitions in pipeline?
Our view is that digital credit, and so Strive SATA strategy has a product called STRC, that those products are the iPhones of our company. And so what you're going to see is continual improvement on those products. And so just, you could think about an iPhone. There's an iPhone 1, there's an iPhone 2, there's an iPhone 3. When we launched SATA, it was paying monthly. We had a 12-month dividend reserve. Right now, we have an 18-month dividend reserve, so we've increased the amount of cash that's backing the security. We've also increased the amount of Bitcoin that's backing it. Now we're paying daily. In the future, I think you're likely to see more of these securities move on-chain, and then on-chain building on top of them and kind of pushed all throughout the globe. So I think you're going to continue to see innovation. That is our focus. M&A for us is less likely. It was really a scale game initially to have us double our Bitcoin holdings, but we're always open to it. I think in the broader Bitcoin treasury ecosystem, there probably is some room for consolidation, but we are growing so quickly just organically through the demand of our digital credit product. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, as an example, we bought 2,500 Bitcoin in 1 week. The previous week, we had bought 1,100 Bitcoin. This week, the capital markets have been really open for us, so you'll see probably a pretty large buy next week. And all I like to say is when you look at that versus the size of these other companies in M&A, we're acquiring a lot of these companies' sizes in 1 week or 2 weeks. And so it makes M&A a little bit harder for us to be the best thing for us to focus on today.
Matt, also SATA's trading volume surged very, very strongly after you have announced daily dividends. What is the plan going forward from here, and how are you managing the extreme day-to-day volatility in Bitcoin?
Yeah, the vision is as an issuer. So Strive is taking active steps to try to reduce volatility of the instrument. That's not to say that these instruments will have no volatility, but that is a big difference versus most companies that put out a preferred equity or put out a bond. And once it's out there, they're not taking any steps to reduce the volatility. And so our view is that these products, we call them digital credit, that you could read the prospectus and read 100 different risk factors, but that the most important risk is the credit risk. And so we're focused on doing two things: continually improving and maintaining the credit risk. So that's why we have these cash reserves. And obviously we have a large Bitcoin balance sheet that provides decades of coverage to provide interest on it. And then as far as other things, it is maintaining liquidity for it. So continuing to build liquidity. You noted SATA has great liquidity. On a relative basis, it's more liquid than STRC. It would be the most liquid per unit traded preferred equity in all of U.S. capital markets, which is a great statement. But if you wanted to allocate $100 million or $200 million, then you need more scale. So it's going to be continuing to grow that scale. Although we're large, we have a vision to become much larger and ultimately make a play at large institutions over the coming years.
Matt, a final question. And what is your view ahead on crypto adoption, regulations, products, etc.?
I think you're going to see continual evolution. I think you're going to see some nation state adoption. I just got back last week from Prague in the Czech Republic. They had the largest conference in Europe, and I was pleasantly surprised to see several small nations around the country looking to adopt Bitcoin as actual money. And that would be a big game changer for what Bitcoin would mean. There's a lot of international law around if something is a commodity versus if it's actually a currency, even if it's not your currency. So I think regulation will continue to improve. I think the U.S., as an example, is looking very seriously into a strategic Bitcoin reserve. My view is that Bitcoin itself does not need nation-state adoption, but because of the debt crisis, because of fiat currency issues, nations actually need Bitcoin because of its uncensorable nature, because of its hard cap nature. And so I think you're going to continue to see regulations move more friendly. And when you do see nations do that, I think those nations will see large capital flows and will gain power, will gain national security. So my view is every nation should adopt a pro stance towards Bitcoin.
मैट बहुत शुक्रिया हमारे साथ आज यहाँ पर जुड़ने के लिए CNBC आवाज़ पर। तो क्लियरली स्ट्राइव के CEO हमें ये बताते हुए कि आगे जाकर बिटकॉइन एक करेंसी के तौर पर आ सकता है। जिस तरह से ग्लोबल डेट है उसका फ़ायदा कहीं ना कहीं सोना और क्रिप्टो दोनों उठाते हुए नजर आएंगे, और आगे जाकर लोग और इंस्टीट्यूशंस ही नहीं, कंट्रीज़ भी यहाँ पर बिटकॉइन को अडॉप्ट करती हुई दिखेंगी। वेल, इसी के साथ फिलहाल इस कार्यक्रम में इतना ही समय है। हम लौटेंगे और लेकर आएंगे खिलाड़ी नंबर 1।
CNBC आवाज प्रस्तुत